In my previous video, I looked at the Labor government's new Freedom of Information Bill and how, despite talking a big game on
transparency and integrity,
the Albanese government continued to deliver anything but. To be fair, it was a long, dry video. I wasn't expecting it to reach a massive audience. And given that I wasn't exactly blowing smoke up Labor's arse here, I was also fully expecting a few cranky Labor fans to creep out of the woodwork. Look, to be honest, I'm pretty sure that of the small audience that my stuff appeals to, there's a certain percentage that are just tuning in to hate watch, hoping to find something to roast me on. Fair enough. But seriously, the government don't need you making excuses for why this is okay.
I get the sense they can take care of themselves.
So let's take a look at this comment that caught my eye. So this person's written, the context being omitted here is that the number of FOI requests has skyrocketed in recent years. This is why the FOI response percentage has gone down, even though the actual number of requests being granted has risen. The fee being proposed by Labor is designed to limit excessive frivolous FOI requests with the intent of improving the response rate for legitimate inquiries. So let's break this down. Have the number of FOI requests actually skyrocketed in recent years? No. You can find the number of FOI requests made each financial year in the annual report for the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner. It's worth noting that it appears the 2023-24 figures from this report also seem to be the ones that the Attorney-General has been referring to in all her justification for the bill as well. Now granted, we don't have the most recent financial year figure yet because that report hasn't been released yet, so there's always the chance that the number of requests has gone through the roof in the past 12 months. But then again, there's also the chance that they'll continue to fall around the 7-year average as well. Regardless, I'm going to add the Information Commissioner's annual report to the list for my annual report roundup, when all these annual reports are eventually released at 4:59 on a Friday sometime in the near future. In the annual report, it actually breaks down the numbers of FOI requests per government department and agency. And for what it's worth, I reckon if we're going to see any sort of significant increase in FOI requests for the most recent financial year, then it's going to be for the E-Safety Commissioner. They were the problem in the reporting period that this annual report's for. And it seems to be the requests to the E-Safety Commissioner that Labor have used as the example of a surge in FOI requests. E-Safety actually explained the likely cause of that surge in the annual report and put it down to a coordinated campaign. I don't know, do you reckon that justifies the government changing FOI laws in order to make it harder for people to access government information? This person is right though. I didn't include the overall number of FOIs in my original video. This may be hard to believe, but the omission wasn't exactly due to any attempted Machiavellian stitch-up. I just didn't actually think to include it. On first glance, there wasn't really that much to say about it. But in hindsight, I'm disappointed I didn't, because if anything, this data raises even more questions about the reasons Labor have given for trying to push these changes through. So to summarise, at this stage, is there any evidence to suggest skyrocketing FOI requests? No. While the total number of FOI requests have remained relatively stable over the 7-year reporting period, the number of FOI requests refused outright under Labor has gone through the roof, whilst simultaneously the number of FOI requests granted in full has nosedived. The government have claimed that over 1 million hours were spent in 2023-24 processing FOI requests. And that's true. That figure also comes from this same annual report. And I think this is what's interesting. Whilst the total number of FOI requests has remained relatively stable, the number of hours spent processing FOIs has increased at the same time as refusals have increased and requests granted in full have dive-bombed. Now, I'm really starting to wonder, is more time being spent now because it takes longer to process requests when you're looking for reasons to reject the request, or if you're having to redact large slabs of information? I know, I'm starting to sound a bit... It is worth remembering too that government departments and agencies often have dedicated teams responsible for records management and freedom of information. I'd hate to think that these FOI changes are the first step in federal Labor emulating Victoria, where, rather than trying to fix the system and make it easier for people to access government information, they've cut funding instead. Look, I've said it before, but I expected more from Labor. I expected them to deliver the Anti-Corruption Commission with teeth. I expected them to do the right thing by whistleblowers. I just expected a more transparent government than what we'd had previously. But I'll be the first to admit, my expectations were clearly too high. What was promised versus what Labor have delivered when it comes to transparency and integrity are two different things. And I think that can be an awkward reality for some to come to terms with.
We don't need a culture of secrecy. We need a culture of disclosure. Reform freedom of information laws so they can't be flouted as they have been by this government. The current delays, obstacles, costs and exemptions make it easier for the government to hide information from the public than to actually give it out. That is just not right.
Couldn't agree more.